All right, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to episode 4 of Assassin's Creed Odyssey Let's Play. In this episode, we head towards Ithaca after talking to Elpinor. And I'm just gonna break this down into 3 episodes where I talk about the Odyssey, the Homeric epic poem. And I start by talking about Odysseus and his background, his lineage, and then I break down the Odyssey story, like what happens chapter by chapter, very briefly, because there is so much that can be said about Odysseus. That I'm just gonna spend different episodes talking about aspects of him. But before you begin, please do remember to subscribe, leave a comment at the end if you liked it. It, does go a long way. I do my best to respond. So, without further ado, let's watch the video. Okay, so, if you remember from last time, we had just met... Oh my god, I've forgotten his name. Elpinor, yeah, okay. So we just met that creepy looking guy, Elpinor, and he's asked us to recover a piece of Penelope's shroud, which we will go and do, of course. And obviously, like I said, I want to talk about Odysseus, and gosh, there is so much that could be said about that hero. I could be here for literal hours discussing if he was as good as he claims to be, or if he was a bit shifty and slimy. But I think I'm going to save that for future episodes. Today, in this episode, I'm going to talk about who he was, what he's about, why do we know him, where he comes from, and explore some of his more infamous stories, but just very basically. So I think today I'm just going to give a breakdown of the Odyssey as we know it, the eponymous Homeric epic, which, as fates would have it, happens to be the name of this game. Very funny how that works, don't you think? No, that's definitely not what I wanted to do. Let's climb up. Okay. Take command of this. So.
Headed to the house of Odysseus on a tiny boat. Let's try not to piss Poseidon off, shall we?
So I mean, yeah, Odysseus is perhaps most famously known for his involvement in the Trojan War, and particularly the Trojan horse. But I don't particularly want to talk about that, because we all know about that. That isn't anything new. Let's just instead give a little bit of a summary of the Odyssey, what happens in it, some standout sort of stories or episodes, and just get a basic feel for Odysseus, because I know there's going to be loads of future episodes. Huh.
Elpinor wasn't lying.
Did we find it? I've lost it already. It's not on him, is it? No. Where did it go? I will find it, I'm sure. It's not up there. No. But yeah, I mean, I'm planning on doing loads of episodes, or maybe not loads, but a fair few on Odysseus and his legacy, if I like him or not. I think the best place to start is by looking at who he was, really. So Odysseus then, he belongs to a class of ancient Greek heroes.
Let's keep out of sight.
Yeah, good point. So a class of super ancient Greek heroes that existed during the time where gods basically interacted quite openly with mortals. He belongs to a race of demigods, so humans who have semi-divine parentage. Basically, Odysseus himself doesn't directly come from a god in the way like his comrades like Achilles did. But he does find himself in a lot of favour with Athena, the goddess of like wisdom and wits and strategy, precisely because of Odysseus' cunning and guile. And Odysseus, he pretty much exists during that verge where
All the years I lived on Kefalonia, I never realized the mighty Odysseus' palace was here.
yeah, where gods sort of stopped interacting with humans. So after the Trojan War, or perhaps the reason we have the Trojan War is because Zeus basically needs to cull all humans, and he also wants to stop like the whole demigod race because humans are interacting, or rather gods are interacting too much with humans. And I said like, yeah, Odysseus existed as though he was like fact, as though he was an actual person. And I think for now it's enough to say that for the ancient Greeks, like these heroes like Odysseus, like Achilles, and even the gods to an extent, were as much their history in the way like a figure like Napoleon or Anne Frank might have been or is our history.
Oh, what now?
But yeah, I mean that's what I'm talking about. Like there will be another episode where I talk about like myth, history. Oh no, they've seen me. Have they seen me? Yep. Great. That was embarrassing actually. I'm going to cut that out. Need to be more sneaky. I was also wrong, by the way, in my last episode when I was talking about how like Kephalos isn't at all related to Odysseus, because apparently he is, and we can trace Odysseus' lineage quite far back. So from what we know, Odysseus' grandfather is Arceus, son of Cephalus, so that would make Cephalus his great-grandfather. And Cephalus is the son of Aeolus. Aeolus is the god or the keeper of winds, and there's an episode actually, like I don't know what chapter it is or what book it is in the Odyssey, where Odysseus meets Aeolus and Aeolus offers him a bag of winds to travel. Now Odysseus, his lineage basically leads him to, but we would expect him to be quite a cunning guy.
I never realized the mighty Odysseus' palace was here.
His maternal grandfather then is a figure called Autolycus. Nope, Autolycus. I'm going to put the spelling up because I'm definitely not pronouncing that right. Who himself is the son of Hermes, the trickster god. Odysseus' father is Laertes and his mother is Anticlea. So he's got that sort of trickster god background from his his maternal side. A vibe from his paternal side in at least this story. Now there's another story about Odysseus' lineage which is that he's actually the son of Sisyphus, and Laertes bought Odysseus off Sisyphus. Now Sisyphus, if that name sounds familiar, that's because it's the geezer who was condemned to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity. What did Sisyphus do? Well, he was punished for his craftiness and deceitfulness, so you can kind of see a theme developing here when it comes to Odysseus' background. Sisyphus was punished because he trapped death, Thanatos, with his own chains. And for a long period nobody would die. Then he cheated death again by convincing his wife to throw his dead body into a fire. And then when Sisyphus was in Hades, in the underworld, he told Penelope, queen of the underworld at the time, that he had been disrespected and he needed to go back to the living to sort it out. And of course, once he was back in the living, he refused to die, refused to return to the underworld. So he cheated death twice, and as a result he was punished and forever condemned to push a boulder up a hill and never leave. So either way you look at it, the great Odysseus, he's got a past of trickster and cunning men, which, I mean, explains his guile and his cunning and his intelligence and deceitfulness. There are many different ways that you can describe Odysseus. You could definitely argue that he's a hero, and you can argue that he's as far from a hero as one person could be. Where? Where should I go? How do I go? Sneaky, sneaky. Ooh, let's show the nearby quest and track it. Ah, it's inside. Why are there wolves howling? Oh, there is no inside. Oh, right, it's right on the floor. Kephilos, by the way, has a very interesting story that I need to stop doing that I didn't really give credit to, and it makes a lot more sense now that he's got a famous spear. Kephilos then, already married during this story to a lovely woman called Procris. Unfortunately for Kephilos, he catches the eye of Eos, the goddess of dawn, who steals him away and bears him a son. But Kephilos has always wanted Procris. He's not particularly happy living with Eos, and begrudgingly Eos lets him return. Long story short, during this time, Procris spends some time with Artemis, goddess of the hunt. And when she returns to Kephilos, she brings two magical gifts. A javelin, or a spear, right? And a hunting dog which always catches its prey. So a javelin that never misses, and a hunting dog that always catches its prey. Tragically, one night, Procris sneaks up on Kephalos, who is, I think, either preying or hunting, and just, do I have to fight everyone? Right, who is hunting or preying or something like that.
Something's out there.
And Kephalos turns, throws the spear at Procris, and kills her. As she dies, she makes him promise never to marry Eos, and Kephalos, distraught, barely able to live with himself, exiles himself to Thebes. I should stop kicking him off because nothing's working.
How are you still?
But I don't have to give them a chance to attack either. I need better weapons. There we go.
I mean, cloth.
How do I throw someone? Not like that. That was a lot quicker than I was expecting. But you know what, fine, we can continue to talk about Odysseus. Doesn't matter too much. Not quite done here anyway. So that's Kephalos' history, and that's Odysseus' lineage, very briefly explained. I think all it really highlights is that he comes from a family of tricksters and deceivers. It's in his nature, in his blood. Oh, you know what? There is something here. Exciting. So, that's Penelope's shroud found. Now let's turn to Odysseus and the Odyssey. So, the Odyssey is one of Homer's epics, one of the Homeric epics, the other being the Iliad, and the Odyssey follows the journey of Odysseus, who is trying to return home after 10 years of battling at Troy during the Trojan Wars. This guy is so blind. That's not even on me.
You're going down, Mistios. Only Charon awaits you now. Hey, I see her. I don't see them. You're getting out of this. You are no match for them.
Cool. Cool. We actually hear of Odysseus before we even see him, because at the beginning of the Odyssey, his son Telemachus is off to try and find him. Now Odysseus, he is given in Greek an epithet, or like a little, like, suffix to his name, Polytropos, which loosely translated kind of means like cunning or wise or witty, that kind of vibe. He is a proud and arrogant man, and throughout the Odyssey we see how his wits are tested and his uncanny way of using disguises. He's a master of disguise.
Get me out of here.
Oh yeah, I remember this girl. Come on then. Odessa.
Thank you. Let's get out of here. Have saved me. Can you fight? I'd be happy to.
So Odysseus' kind of journey all begins really with the fall of Troy.
My thanks.
So let's listen to Odessa.
Those Malakas sneak up on me. Ithaca is a dangerous place to wander around on your own. You're wandering around on your own. You're right. I can't fight a camp of bandits by myself. Could you help me to get to Odysseus' palace? I can pay. I'll help you.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I'm in luck then. What do I call you? Cassandra. I'm Odessa, named after the great Odysseus. Why would you want to go up there? I am a descendant of Odysseus. I'm on a pilgrimage. You're a descendant of the former king of Ithaca? I'm the man who created the Trojan horse and defeated the Cyclops? The one who traveled to the land of the Lotus Eaters? The one the Odyssey is about? Yes, I am. Why? You're not the first who said that, is all. Well, I trust I don't need to prove my lineage to get up to the palace.
If you're so great, why were
should head
you
to the
captured
palace
by
while we have the
bandits? Where the help? Where is the help? So how does the Trojan War start? Actually, you know what? Let's save the beginning of the Trojan War for a different day, because that's not really... I mean, that does start off his journey, but it's not really what the Odyssey is about. The Odyssey is more about how Odysseus gets home. And all we really need to know is that after the Trojan War, after the events of the Iliad,
It's just rubble.
all of the Greeks return home.
Something more grand.
Or they
My
try to
parents
return
named
home.
me Odessa. I'm Odysseus's namesake.
What happens
If
with
I came here,
Odysseus
I might understand him more.
is that
Do you? Not at all. Take me to my boat. I'll pay you there.
okay, so what happens to Odysseus is that a lot of his crew want to return home here, I guess, to rocky old Ithaca. But Odysseus is very wary of leaving without making any sort of sacrifice to Athena, who is his patron deity. But he does so anyway, and he enrages Athena. And this means he can't really leave. And what happens is his men sail off, and they find themselves on land, and Odysseus' second in command, Eurylochus, convinced him to weigh anchor and lay waste to this city, right? Claim as many spoils as they can.
Well, this is for you.
These people, they're
Such a disappointment.
called the
Why is that place so
Ciconians,
Are you
and they
joking?
flee.
Odysseus lived there. Ruled
Oh,
there.
excuse me.
He ended the Trojan War.
Yeah, you know what? I'm
He
gonna
ruled
speak about all these
Scylla
characters.
and Charybdis. He had everything. loyalty, love, fighting spirit.
He had the attention of the gods, too. That caused him a lot of trouble.
Well said.
And it
Well
made
said.
him a legend.
You look cute right now. As if nothing can get in your way.
I don't usually like...
By the way, I'm
people.
playing as a very flirty assassin.
There are a few other ones I can think of that would suit you.
I can't wait to hear them.
I'm going to sleep my way through this game.
That works even better. The other ones will come later.
I hope later comes soon.
So what do you think?
I think I was in a much poorer mood before now. There's just so much I desire. To be as great as Odysseus. Where do I even begin?
If you want Odysseus' greatness, you have to do it your own way. He was famous because of his cunning. What have you done?
I've traveled all the way here.
To see the ruins of Odysseus' life, not to live your own.
I should know better than to take advice from a mercenary. Leave me.
Ouch. After I saved your life. So rude. You know, while I'm here, I'm just gonna stay here. Yeah, so the Ciconians, they flee. Odysseus and his men lay waste to the city, and the Ciconians return, you know, before Odysseus and his men can leave, and they get into a massive fight, and loads of men are killed. Odysseus is about to fight Eurylochus, but they basically managed to stop fighting. They're separated by their men and they continue their journey. And so the next, or I guess rather the first sort of big issue they face is when they land in a place called the Land of the Lotus Eaters. And for any of you that have studied Tennyson's Lotus Eaters, this is what his poem takes inspiration from. The Lotus Eaters, or rather on this land, there's a weird kind of food called lotus flowers, basically like an hallucinogenic that makes the men forget themselves, forget all about their family and their homeland, and most, I think interestingly or scarily rather, makes them forget about their massive desire to get home. Oh, this guy's got no idea what's happening. Oh, I can't. Oh, come on.
Shit! She got away.
Nope. Yeah, it makes them forget all about their desire to get home, and they just want to stay on this land forever. Which is quite a scary thought, I think. Because they've been away from home for 10 years and they've been fighting to save their home for 10 years. And suddenly they're on this land, they've eaten a weird flower. And they don't want to go anymore. Quite a powerful little thing, that. Odysseus, I'm not sure, I don't think he does eat. And he has to try and convince the rest of his men that they need to go home. So Odysseus and some other men have to carry them back to the ship. And they very quickly make haste. I think that's probably the first proper sort of supernatural challenge that Odysseus faces. Let's try and find this. I mean, Chris literally saw it, isn't it, over here or something? No. What did you see? What did I... But the first, like, monster that they face is the Cyclops Polyphemus. So Odysseus and his men have been travelling for some time now, trying to get home, travelling south. For many weeks, and they come across this strange land. And Odysseus and his men, they want to rest. They're quite tired. They've been travelling for ages. So they post anchor, lay anchor, and they enter this cave. This massive cave that they think has got to belong to some giant creature. Surely. It's so big. But what they find there is this ugly, massive, one-eyed Cyclops. They actually find a rock in the mouth of the cave as like a door, and it's guarded by this giant Cyclops called Polyphemus. The Polyphemus asked who they are, and Odysseus, in his cunning, he doesn't want to give away his name, so he tells them they're simply seafarers and they are looking for food. And what have they done as soon as they landed? Well, they've killed a lot of the sheep that are there. And this is one of the biggest things why, like, Odysseus, you can't really consider him a hero, I don't think. What's here? Because they've landed on this weird place, strange country, strange land that they don't know, and the first thing they've decided to do is kill some sheep. Kind of how I'm doing now, I guess. That a boy.
You're a good hunter, Icarus.
So Polyphemus is well upset, like they killed his sheep. Like, he loves looking after his sheep. So Polyphemus blocks the entrance of the cave with a huge rock. And he doesn't let them leave. He's trapped them inside. Every day he eats 2 of Odysseus's men. Just rips them apart. Dashes their brains against the walls of his cave. Eats them raw. Odysseus cannot bear this. These are his men. He's responsible for their lives. And he's asked so much of them. So he devises a cunning plan.
They'll keep a sharp watch.
What is this? What he does is, he and his men have brought gifts with them, or rather they've got wine with them, right? So he offers this wine to Polyphemus one day, who drinks it greedily, gulps it down, gets drowsy, and falls to sleep. While he's sleeping, Odysseus fashions a massive stake out of some wood with a sharp point at the end, places it in the fire, and thrusts it straight into Cyclops' eye. His only eye. So now obviously the Cyclops can't see very well, but he can still, like, use his other senses, as it were. That's not gonna work. penalty. So, Polyphemus wakes up screaming in agony, as you would. Your eyes been skewered by a burning hot steak. He demands to know who's done this, and Odysseus refers to himself as nobody. Strange, I guess. But when Polyphemus is raging and screaming in pain, there are his brothers on this island as well, and they have asked him, "Brother Polyphemus, what's happened?" And he started screaming, "Nobody's poked my eye out." What? Nobody's poked your eye out? What's going on? What are you talking about? The fellow Cyclops think it's just Polyphemus acting in a bit of a drunk stupor. Then the next morning, Odysseus and his men strap themselves underneath the sheep. And when Polyphemus lets the sheep out to graze, Odysseus' men manage to escape. And that would have been fine, right? Odysseus and his men could have got away relatively unscathed. But Odysseus could not risk nobody knowing his name. So he calls back to Polyphemus and he says, "My name is Odysseus. I have bested you." Little does Odysseus know that Poseidon, the god of the seas, the god of the biggest body of water that he's going to have to travel to get home, is Polyphemus' father. So Polyphemus cries out to his father to avenge the pain and the humiliation. And so begins basically Odysseus' 10-year-long journey home. Because Odysseus just can't risk nobody knowing his name. And then he meets Aeolus, his great-great-great-grandfather, somewhere along the line. Who offers to help him and gives him a bag of winds to help him get home. Off he goes, Odysseus and his men, sailing along, happily ready to get home. And he's hiding this bag of winds from his men. Are these... okay. I don't know why. Maybe he doesn't trust them. His men certainly don't think that he trusts them, because they get jealous and they want to know Odysseus. He's probably keeping all the good spoils to himself. What's in the bag? And so one day, Odysseus must see Ithaca. That's how close to home he is. He can see its craggy peaks, its rocky outcrop. They can probably smell it. He's home, right? No, because his men open. Oh, there's still something here. His men open the bag of winds, which sends them all the way back to Aeolus. All the way back. That must be like months of traveling. Just gone. Of course Odysseus is upset. He's angry. He has to travel all over again. So the winds create a furious storm, sending the ship all the way back to Aeolus, all the way back to Aeolia, which is where Aeolus is, right? And again Odysseus asks him for help, but this time Aeolus is like, nah, you lot are bad vibes. How can you be back already? I don't trust you. So now he's got to sail away. The winds were a great help, by the way. Now he's got to do all of that manually with him and his men. It's painful. Definitely. And as he's travelling, he comes across a place called Aiae, which is the home of the sorceress Circe. Circe, who is known to turn her guests into pigs. Circe knows they're coming because she is I think she's a descendant of oh.
I wonder if we'll be able to leave without getting into a brawl. Oh, am I kidding? This place never changes.
She's a descendant of Helios, the god of the sun before Apollo. And she's got prophetic capabilities. So she knows Odysseus is coming, and she turns his men into pigs. Thankfully, Odysseus is warned by Hermes that this is what Circe likes to do. And Hermes gives him, oh my god, Hermes gives him a herb that will protect him from Circe's magic and spells. Now obviously Circe realizes, oh man, my magic doesn't work with this guy. And she's bested and she agrees, okay fine, I will turn your men back if you sleep with me.
Cassandra? Good news, I hope.
Safe and sound.
Well done. And now the shroud is yours.
You don't want it? After all that?
I gained something more valuable today. For your troubles, Misthios.
If I knew any better, I'd think you were testing me.
Perhaps.
What is this?
You did well, Misthios. Tell me, how do you feel about killing a general in Megaris? Do this for me and earn double what you earned today. Are you up to the task? It would take you far away from Kefalonia. So far away you might never return.
I'm not an assassin.
There's a first time for everything. What do you say?
Fine.
Who is this general?
They call him the Wolf.
He'd do something to offend you?
Yes, he's costing me drachmi. He's not good for business.
Anything I should know about Megaris?
Only that it's the most valuable land in the Greek world. From a military perspective, of course. Unfortunately for Megarians, it has two very powerful neighbors who just can't seem to play nice. In the tug of war between Corinth and Athens, Megaris is their own.
Why me?
Because no one knows who you are. You're invisible.
Yeah.
I accept.
Splendid. You'll need a boat. You have one, don't you?
If I had a boat, we wouldn't be having this
I mean,
conversation.
I don't have a
Shame.
boat, do I?
It's too far of a swim, I'm afraid. Even for you.
Give
find
me
one.
one then.
Good. I hope it's sturdy.
And why is that?
The seas are much more dangerous, I'm afraid. War is coming, and the wolf is on the wrong side.
War? With whom?
The entire Greek world is at each other's throats. What rock have you been hiding under exactly?
Kefalonia. And how do I know you're on the right side?
'Cause I'm the one paying you.
You won't be disappointed.
When your job in Megaris is done, come find me at Pilgrim's Landing in Phokis.
I can wear that. I will wear that actually. Oh, I'm supposed to hold it down. Let's equip some stuff. Let's see where we're at. Oh, I'm level 5 now. Alright, no more boring stuff. I don't think it... Yeah, okay, it doesn't actually do anything. This is what I'm saying, this is some nice armor. There are some nice armor sets in this game. A lot of swag. Tripping. Cool. So, we're with Circe, and Odysseus stays with her for about a year, just
I need a
getting
boat.
better,
I
stronger,
suppose the ship will
rebuilding his ship. But there comes a time where he needs to go home. He's got Penelope to get home to. Faithless, unwielding, cunning Penelope. So he needs to get home. He wants to get home. But Circe tells him before he can go, he needs to go to the underworld and speak to the blind prophet Tiresias. So off he goes, and he finds a way. No other hero apart from Orpheus and Hercules have been to the underworld and come back. So how is Odysseus going to get there? Well, Circe basically tells him everything that he needs to know. He is to travel to the edge, sail to the edge of the world, to Oceanus. And when he finds the right place, he has to dig a pit, sacrifice some rams, and allow the blood of that sacrifice to flow into the pit, therefore attracting the spirits who were unable to speak until they had drunk the blood. So he needs to be careful to make sure that he only lets people he wants to speak to drink. When he's in the underworld, he meets his mum, which is always a sad, it's quite a sad way to find out, quite a unique way to find out that your mother's passed away. And he listens to what she says. She's passed away from grief of waiting for him to return from the Trojan War.
It's a fine ship, Telemenes.
Cassandra! She is that. Ready to ride the waves for the right captain and the right price.
What'll it take for you to part with her?
Couldn't let her go for
What?
less than 100,000.
100,000? Who has that much?
Someone who's serious about buying a ship. You think craftsmanship like this is given away?
What if I told you I had obsidian to trade?
I tell you I still need 100,000 drachmi. Besides, even if I took your obsidian, a ship this size needs an army to sail it.
Come on,
This
man.
is Kefalonia. I could always find someone down on their luck and willing to work for next to nothing to get off this island.
The seas are treacherous now. Well, more than usual. It would be suicide.
You're not being very helpful, Telemenes.
Not sure if this helps, but rumor has it the Cyclops is coming for you and Marcos.
Rumors mean nothing.
I'm a big gal, you
Don't
know.
believe everything you hear.
Rumor also has it his ship is docked in Kleptus Bay.
His ship,
Oh
you say?
yeah.
I'll have to pay Kleptus Bay a visit.
Be careful. That one-eyed brute has a nasty temper.
Get it.
So I can take his ship and deal with the Cyclops at the same time. 2 birds, 1 stone.
Nice. Right, so he's in the underworld. He's spoken to his mum, Anticlea, and he sees Tiresias appear. Now Tiresias, the blind prophet, tells him what's gonna happen. Basically how he is gonna get home, but he's gonna go through a tough time doing it. He also tells him that when he gets home, his journey will not end. Odysseus will forever have an itch to travel, and his journey will only end when he finds a land who do not recognize ships, does not recognize what an oar is. And when he gets to this land, he'll be done. But for now, Odysseus needs to get home to Ithaca, and to do so, he needs to pass through 2 more monsters, Scylla and Charybdis. But before he gets there, he travels past things called sirens. Sirens are dangerous things. They're the sirens of myth. Circe has warned him about these. They're the ones who will sing sailors sweet nothings and lure them in with their beautiful sounds and music, and then kill them. Ah, I knew it was around here. But let's do this first. Okay, so to get through the siren, past the sirens, Odysseus advises his men to stick wax in their ears while he ties himself to the mast of his ship. Obviously Odysseus can still guide them, but he also hears the tempting, captivating and beautiful song of the sirens. And he has an overwhelming urge to jump in and see them. Thankfully he's been tied up and he can't. But the desire to see these sirens is as strong as the desire to stay when they were in the land of the Lotus Eaters, and the desire to see Penelope. But of course he manages to get through relatively unscathed, and he knows of course he's gonna have to pass through a narrow strait. On one side is Scylla, a violent, ugly monster. On the other side is Charybdis, a relentless whirlpool. And Odysseus is going to have to pick a side to pass through. Tiresias has basically told him, yeah, your best bet is to go through Scylla. You're going to lose some men, but it's easier to pass through Scylla rather than Charybdis and lose some men rather than all your men. So that's exactly what he does, and Odysseus loses 6 men as he passes past Scylla. But Odysseus hasn't told his men that this is what Tiresias has told me. You know, he's kept that to himself. Maybe he doesn't want to worry them. Maybe just more selfish than we like to believe. But they pass through these narrow straits and they continue on their journey to a land of beautiful, beautiful white cattle. Odysseus has been warned by Tiresias and Circe not to harm the cattle on this land. But his men have not. And his men are hungry. And they see these beautiful sheep, cattle, cows on this land. And they eat them, slaughter them and feast them. These cattle belong to Helios, the sun god, and he is upset. Helios complains to Zeus. And he says that unless Zeus does something, Helios will take the sun down to Hades and mankind will never see the day of light, the light of day again.
But now it's just a nest of anarchy and crime.
So Odysseus sinks. No, sorry. Zeus sinks Odysseus' ship with a thunderbolt just as he's leaving, and he destroys every man on board apart from Odysseus himself. So Odysseus left Troy with about 12 ships. And it's a bit hard to calculate how many on a ship, but there's a lot. There's a lot of men. And within maybe like 2 to 3 years, he's lost all his ships. He's lost all his men. And somehow we're supposed to believe that this guy is an amazing, cunning leader. Well, he's a cunning leader for sure. But is he a good leader? I'm not convinced. Odysseus is floundering around the sea, the open waters, when he somehow manages to land on an unknown, quiet island. It just so happens that the island he finds himself on is Ogygia, the island of Calypso. And he spends 7 years here. 7 long, arduous years. With, a beautiful nymph, Calypso. But not home. Calypso has such a terrible fate. It's really harsh. But essentially, she is banished to this island for eternity. Oh, what? Oh, I didn't get to kill everyone. Oh, yeah.
What difference does it make? All of them! I swear, all of them! I have never so much fucking god talk from one man in all my days.
Let him go.
Here's the
No one
the Cyclops.
is allowed to say that word!
Did he say Cyclops? Did he hurt your feelings?
Don't like it when people call me that! I didn't.
But you're so fat. Big and strong. And you really do only have one eye.
My eye. Give it to me. Give it to me and I won't kill Marcos for having you steal it! Give it to me!
Cassandra is so pretty.
Go get it.
What a loser. Well, that was fun. So, Calypso is, you know what, let's talk to Barnabas first before I get started on Calypso.
We shouldn't delay here any further. Even rats like these have friends on Kefalonia.
By Zeus, these Kefalonian bandits have no choice.
Yeah, so Calypso, doomed to fall in love with every man who ever lands on her island, but never able to leave. Very tragic. But yeah, she offers Odysseus immortality, which he turns down. And it's understandable. Achilles was offered something very similar, and he did not enjoy it.
Can't thank you enough. After spending most of my life at sea, it would have been absolutely shameful to drown in a pot. Ah, where are my manners? I am Barnabas, captain of the Adrestia.
Well, Barnabas, I'm pleased to meet you. I'm Cassandra, Mystios by trade.
Oh, but you're much more than that, I'm sure.
What do you mean?
When they forced my head underwater, I prayed to the gods. And when they pulled it out, there you were.
All of Kefalonia heard your prayers. I just happened to be closest.
And you just happen to fight like Achilles, while Zeus's eagle flies around your head.
So, you have a ship?
Of course. Gods forbid I'd end up stuck in this place.
What is it now?
Thanks to you, it's still in Sami Harbor, where I left it.
Perhaps the fates brought us together after all. I'm in need of a ship, and a crew.
You saved my life. It would disgust the gods to not offer it in return.
So, that's a yes?
My ship, my crew, and my services are yours.
You truly aren't from around here.
Ha ha! Gods know! And I thank them for that! Come now and see the Adrestia!
Easier than 100,000 drachmi, I suppose. So Odysseus spends 7 years with Calypso, but he finally decides it's time to go. Builds himself a little raft and sets sail. Unfortunately, he finds himself trapped in another storm where he's washed up on the final island he'll visit before he gets home. The land of the Phoenicians, which is where he finds himself after this storm. And he's on the beach, naked, and the princess sees him, Princess Nafisika. Nafsika, sorry. And there's a bit of an awkward interaction, but he's invited into the palace where he weaves his journey to the king and queen. They believe him because of course he makes himself look better than he is or he was. Because yeah, he needs the help, so he's obviously gonna kind of twist the story. And that's another story for another time, definitely. The whole episode on Phoenicia. But suffice to say for now, they give him a ship, the fastest ship that they have, the best of their provisions, and they send him on his way home. And so, after 10 long years, Odysseus returns to Ithaca. Which way is Ithaca? Okay, way over there. Croppy, rocky, goat field, Ithaca. And it would be nice to think that that's the end of his journey, but no, because whilst he's been away, suitors have taken up residence in his house, all with the express aim of getting his wealth, marrying his wife, and owning his land. So Odysseus continues to hide his identity until he can get a lay of the land. And he basically hires or convinces first his son Telemachus that he is who he is, and then his slave Eumaeus. And he lives as a disguised beggar, learning about what's been happening in his absence. Long story short, there is a massive fight where Odysseus, Telemachus and Eumaeus slay about 108 suitors. And of course, the suitors' parents aren't happy, and they arrive, and there's about to be yet another fight. But Athena comes down and basically says, "This is enough. Stop all your fighting." And that is essentially the Odyssey condensed in, I don't know, about an hour. And that's enough for now. There will be more stories with Odysseus for sure, but just not at the moment. There's so much to be said for Odysseus, and we can go into so much more detail about how he behaved on Polyphemus' island, how he behaved with Cyclops, and on the flip side, we could speak a lot about Penelope and why she is so much more than just a faithful wife. But that is another story for another episode. For now, this is me saying thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please drop a like, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you think. Let me know if there's any stories or myths that you want me to explain or look into. And please do join me again next time. See you later.